I want to talk about designing assessments that build strategic thinking. I'm also using one of the marketing simulations in my postgraduate studies, and just want to talk you through some of the assessment dynamics that we've built. So I want to introduce the critical tension that I think a lot of us face from a teaching perspective, and then look at the pedagogical vehicle that we've used, the assessment architecture that I've put together, and then some practitioner insights from that work and some of the strategic implications of what this might mean going forward. Okay. So one of the key things that we find when we're looking at assessments is that we want to create strategic thinkers. We want to create graduates that can go out into the workplace and actually look at a situation and immediately say, okay, these are some of the things that we need to change from a very strategic perspective and from an analytical perspective. But the way in which we currently assess this kind of strategic thinking competency may not be the right way. It may actually be broken. We rely on static case studies where 2020 is hindsight. So you can look back and you can look at this is what we should have done, this is how we should have done it, and we can say hindsight is 2020. Or we have a lot of descriptive essays where we are asking students to rely on memorization rather than analysis and strategy. And obviously, the AI impact on education has been huge. If we give students very descriptive essays or even case studies, they can simply plug that into AI and come out with a potential solution. And we do find that a lot of students are using AI, but they may not be analyzing and assessing what AI is giving them. So it talks very nicely to Dr. Thomas's presentation on how do we ensure that students are using AI in the right way and that it's ethical AI. So how do we design an assessment architecture that forces students to execute, adapt, and defend strategic logic in real time? What is the actual intervention that we can do in that case? So we implemented the marketplace simulation as one of our central pedagogical vehicles, and this is at a postgraduate level for marketing management students. But we didn't simply choose it because it's a gamified technical add-on. It wasn't just chosen because it's stimulating and engaging and novel, which of course it is, but it's because we put students into competitive teams. They create a business from scratch across a 2-year, 8-quarter life cycle. They submit quarterly decisions, and the strategy is iterative. So they're not just creating a single strategy. They are in an ongoing cycle of commitment, observation, and real-time adjustment. This forces students to navigate the exact tension that senior executives face every week. How do we survive immediate quarterly cash flow pressures without compromising our long-term strategic investments? Every submission changes the market context, meaning that students must live with the competitive reality of the decisions they made last quarter that are now impacting on this quarter in their actual business. The magic of this approach lies in the continuous closed feedback loop. Students don't submit an assignment and wait for their lecturer to come back to them with feedback, maybe in 3 or 4 weeks' time. Instead, they make decisions in real time. And this is across starting a business, setting up marketing, setting up sales, distribution channels, training, cash flow, financial statements, market share, and they do all this in real time. So the decisions that they make this week directly impact on what they see in the business in the next quarter, in the next week in this case. This is the multimodal assessment architecture that we've set up. We don't just grade whether a team won or lost, because that could be a lucky guess. It could be we don't actually know what decisions you made and how you may have won the simulation. What we have put in place is a scaffolded four-tiered assessment process that forces deep critical reflection. So the first thing we track is the group simulation performance in the actual simulation, and this is using a balanced scorecard. We measure elements like return on equity, asset management, market share. Secondly, they need to submit strategic written reports. And this is where we combat the descriptive writing trap. They can't just tell us what happened. We can see what's in the simulation. They have to tell us why it happened. What decisions did you make that got you to this point? And it forces students to externalize their thinking, and it proves that or it should prove that their decisions are grounded in financial analysis rather than random intuition. The third thing that we get them to do is they need to present their reports in a classroom situation, like a live executive pitch, and we cross-examine that. And it makes them professionally accountable. It instantly separates out the teams that can give us a good report, but they don't understand what they're doing, and those that have an understanding of the simulation, but may not be able to give us an analysis of what happened. So there's two sets of types of teams that we see. And then we complete regular peer reviews within the simulation and on the written report side as well, to ensure that students are reflecting on their own work, their competitors' work, and their peers in their teams. From a reflective perspective, I've picked out 4 principles that I think are relevant in this case. Principle 1 looks at tangible consequences, and this means that strategic thinking only develops when consequences are visible and personally meaningful. So, for example, if a team implements an over-aggressive pricing strategy in quarter 2, they don't just get a low mark. When they get to quarter 3, they might see a devastating loss of market share and a cash flow crisis. Experiencing the impact is qualitatively different from reading about it or reading about price elasticity in a textbook. Principle 2 is that iteration is the actual mechanism through which strategic thinking deepens. A single high-stakes case study at the end of a term cannot build strategic maturity. We see a clear shift in the quality of students' reasoning as the simulation progresses. Not because they're reading the chapters in the book or accessing the help files, but because they are going through multiple cycles of decision, feedback, real-time adjustment, and their understanding gets deeper as they practice deeper. So it's practicing the theory without telling me you're practicing the theory, which gives us that analytical iteration. Principle 3 is highlighting the tension between doing the strategy and writing about it. They are not supplementary, they are reflective. So we frequently find a fascinating disconnect. Some teams write really brilliant reports, but they freeze when they've got to actually implement it in the simulation, which means that they know how to write, but they may not know how to practice. Some teams excel in the simulation, but they write very poor reports, which shows that potentially some of the decisions that they're making in the simulation are actually intuitive. They're not understanding what they're actually doing. So it forces students to navigate the doing with the actual understanding of what they are doing and why they're doing and the consequences thereof. The principle 4 shows that peer review builds a critical evaluative dimension that self-assessment alone cannot reach. Critiquing another team's strategy requires students to develop clear criteria for what does good actually look like, but they also critique their teammates, they critique themselves, and they also look at, I critique myself like this. This is what my colleagues actually think. What's the difference? Are we on par? And it allows them to steer away from superficial social feedback toward metric-driven peer evaluations. And this is a vital boardroom capability. Finally, in terms of broader implications for business and marketing education, we need to move beyond validating dynamic strategic accountability. Dynamic professional environments expose the severe limits of static theory. Therefore, postgraduate assessment must prioritize dynamic, multimodal, and AI resilient architecture to forge genuinely strategic minds. Bearing in mind, we're not saying that they shouldn't use AI again, but they need to use AI in the right way. We do not build strategic thinkers by asking them to write about strategy. We build them by creating authentic professional environments where they must execute, adapt, and live with the consequences of their decisions in real time, with the hope that they are taking these skills back into the working environment and they are able to support that in their working environment as well. Thank you very much. And if you would like to contact me as well, this is my email address. And thank you very much for the time as well.